Hello, welcome to an episode of Through the Pages I am excited about. This is a brand new book to 2021, Hooked by Michael Moss. This is a phenomenal book on the processed food industry, just big food, the junk in the center of the grocery store food, also kind of just with the way society's going, and a lot of talks about that. I mean, he talks about kind of how we've taken the look for the quick fix, keep doing the bad thing, all that type of stuff, but not really just laying in like a guilty way. It's more how some of that is out of our control. So I think that is kind of a key distinction on this before going in, before you're like, well, I don't want to just have 200 pages of someone telling me why processed foods are shitty to eat. Like, yeah, I get that. But like, it's about why we are so drawn to them and that they're designed for that. And that might not be shocking to anyone, but he goes very deep into how these things work. And it was fascinating. You saw my last review of the Probiotic Cure. Some of these subjects, if you're looking into them a lot, you need some sort of extra spice in there. Like this if I just read just a plain Jane book about the processed food industry, like it would be pretty boring, honestly. Like I don't need convincing. I've 7 years ago, that's when I was like kind of looking into this stuff, made my choices and moved on. But this really digs into the current state of the industry. It's very contemporary. It has things, from the Trump administration, like up very, very recent. And he's a well-known author. He wrote, what is the order of it? Salt, Sugar, Fat. So I know that was a big one and got him a lot of press and really got him to be able to kind of start hitting on these things. And while some of it's kind of general, salt, sugar, fat, like, and there's nuance to those things, he really, I think, explains things very well in this book. And, one of the first things that kind of astonished me was his reporting on gastric bypass surgeries. And that, I guess it's just wild to me that those even exist, that we've come to that. But what really was alarming was that they're being done on kids now, and that it's such a quick fix. Like, oh, go in that direction, we'll just do a gastric bypass. Like, no problem. Like, maybe a kid's getting obese. There's a lot of ways to decrease that obesity. And so when he reported on a team of doctors in Saudi Arabia being so pleased with themselves because they did it on the youngest person ever, a 2-year-old. Like, how in the fuck do you say a 2-year-old is obese to the point where surgery is, like, you have to do it? Like, that's just surgeons thinking they're rock stars and proving what they can do and wanting to be the first, I think. And so there's a lot of that in there in our, not just our society domestically, but abroad. So he really kind of goes into a lot of things that America is at the nexus of a lot of it, but it's not political in that sense of like, oh, this I mentioned an administration. It wasn't railing on that. It was just I'm just saying that's how current it was. But yeah, one of the, I guess, not to spoil all the parts that I found fascinating by it, but he really explained refined sugar and artificial sweeteners and how they're used in tandem in sodas. And so, and kind of the evolution of it, the history of, we started with this, then we switched to this, now it's a mix of these, and he really covers a lot of the facets of processed foods, and something in regard to the mix of artificial and real sweeteners, or however you want to phrase that. Like, our body, one, was never designed to take that, especially in a liquid form where you take this plant that has a high sugar, refine the sugar out of it, put it in something where we knock it back real quick. No metabolism was built for that. So mixing the real sugars with the artificial sweeteners, our body doesn't have a sense of how many calories that is. It doesn't know how to read it. And so it'll store fat for later because it says, oh, I got some extra, we'll store that. But you didn't have enough for now. And it's this trick on our body where pretty much if you're going to drink a can of soda, you might as well just tape it to yourself. Like, your body's not going to process that like it would a normal meal. Like, it's just going to store it. And there's no redeeming qualities to soda. I could go on and on about that, but he he digs into everything from, you know, natural flavors, little things that we see on processed foods, things at the end that can kind of even be made to seem not bad. Natural flavors, okay, well, at least they're natural. No. There is so much to it, and it's not just to make products sell more in a simple sense. It's for us to feel nostalgia when we open the bag and smell it. It's so that when we come into a grocery store, we're drawn to this and not that. It's fascinating, and it's very understandable when you recognize how few companies own such a large amount of food brands. It kind of works like media where you can see multiple news outlets, but they're owned by the same parent company. Like, so you're not getting the full spectrum. Like, that's not the whole thing. And so much the same with this, where a lot of fast food places, like, it's owned by the same business and you see that it's a few people swaying the market because they have such immense weight, like Nestle and PepsiCo, and the things that they've done to block GMO labeling and anything that could help us better understand this confusing food landscape. It's confusing by design, and they're succeeding. And so information like this, I think, is key for us to understand. It's not just, oh yeah, Pepsi's not good, I drink it sometimes. Like, they're designed to hurt you. Like, that company knows what it's doing, profits off it, and says, fuck it. We're just gonna make money. Bunch of you are obese, that's your fault. We didn't do that. You chose, every time you chose that Pepsi. Well, if it's designed to be addictive, it's designed to be hard to put down. They talked about Oreos where they literally thought about how can we make you pull from the bag without thinking about it as much. We could make it fit in your car cup holder. Your eyes are on the road, your hand will just keep going. Make them smaller so you don't understand conceptually how much you ate when you can say usually like, oh, I'm not gonna eat 10 Oreos, that feels like a lot. I have all these mini ones. Things like that, the trickery, I think is enough to make people lose their appetite. I think that's something that this book can really accomplish, where for me, I went through a lot of changes and it was fueled by information. You know, I didn't look at, like, you know, fried hot wings from a garbage restaurant and just say like, I probably shouldn't. I won't anymore. Like, it was because I looked into stuff. It was like, oh, fuck that. Like, so this sort of information that's very readable and enjoyable to read and fascinating and contemporary, I think really hits with the sledgehammer, honestly. So probably one of my top 10 nonfiction books of the year. This year, I'm amazed. Like, I'm reading so much more nonfiction, and I don't understand it. I keep trying to find, like, good novels. If you have any good novel recommendations, fiction, I want to escape type stuff. Like, I've got 2 novels I'm reviewing next, but, like, I keep burning through, like, I can't build up a list of novels to read the way I can with nonfiction, where it's like, what do I want to learn about? Well, Jesus, like, so much. So, yeah, novel recommendations, hit me with them. Especially if it's an author you have not seen me done any reviews of on here, because pretty much any novel author I've reviewed, I want to read a lot of their stuff, like, but looking for that new, you know? So, Michael Moss, I'll probably read his other one, Salt, Sugar, and Fat. I just knew I'd mix those up, gotta read them. So, yeah, big recommend on this one. It's nice to read books from 2021. So, yeah, check this one out.